In this video, we're going to discuss the concept of demand. But before we dive right on into demand, let's have a quick refresher on the perfect competition. What is perfect competition? Perfect competition is an economic model in which there are many buyers and sellers. So many buyers and sellers that no one individual can affect the market on their own. As a result, they become price takers. There's so many buyers and sellers that no one person can dictate the market price. Neither a buyer cannot say I'm only going to, or the price needs to change to this, and a seller can't say the price needs to change to this. They face this take it or leave it scenario. It's like you're going into a supermarket. You want to buy something such as lettuce, and you walk up to the counter and you face this take it or leave it scenario where you either take the price that it's being offered at, or you go and put the lettuce back on the shelf. You don't walk up to the counter in a grocery store, start negotiating with the checkout person saying, I want this lettuce, but it costs 98 cents. I'll only pay you 75. They'll tell you, well, go put the lettuce back on that shelf. They face that take it or leave it scenario. This actually becomes very important in the price determination that we're going to discuss in Chapter 3. Through price determination, we allow prices to move up and down based off of the markets, based off of the interaction between buyers and sellers. And but we use the perfect competition model to really evaluate how these prices are allowed to move up and down. So let's go ahead and dive on into demand. What is demand? Demand is the quantities of a good that buyers are willing to buy at a series of alternate prices. So this looks at how much are consumers willing to buy. How much is a person willing to buy at a series of alternate prices? So it's looking at, well, what if the prices are higher? How many are they willing to buy there? If the prices are lower, how many are they willing to buy there? So it is a series of alternate prices. It brings in the time and place aspect. This becomes very important in demand. So we're looking at how much are buyers willing to buy a series of alternate prices in a given market at a given time. So if you think about something like turkey, turkey is often bought very heavily or is in high demand during the Thanksgiving season and during the Christmas season. So during November and December, demand for turkey is very high. But during the middle of the summer, whenever it's grilling season, turkey is really not that high in demand. So right there and there alone, we have a difference in the time aspect, and demand is affected by that time aspect. We also have place. So a great example of this is tortillas. So in Texas, tortillas are highly demanded. It seems like almost every meal you might have a tortilla sitting there to wrap up your fajitas in, or it's with your enchiladas or anything like that, or you might just put a piece of bologna on it, a piece of cheese, and wrap it up. Whereas in a place like New York, tortillas may not be in as high demand. Consumer preferences are slightly different. So a market such as Texas, tortillas may be in high demand, but in a market such as New York City, tortillas may not be in very high demand. So place affects demand as well. So whenever we define demand, we say that it is the quantities of a good that buyers are willing to buy at a series of alternate prices in a given market at a given time. Ceteris paribus. Remember, ceteris paribus means nothing else is allowed to change. So this means that this is the demand in this particular market at this particular time with nothing else affecting it. It's very important to notice that this is a relationship. This is a relationship between prices and quantities, and it is a two-dimensional aspect. So this is a relationship between prices and quantities. We compare that to quantity demanded. Quantity demanded is how much of a good that buyers are willing to buy at a single specific price, given a particular market at a particular time. This is a one-dimensional aspect. So we said that this demand is two-dimensional because it shows a relationship. This is a one-dimensional aspect, and it's looking at how much are you going to buy if the price is this. So if the price is $1, and you go into the grocery store and you're looking at lettuce and the price is $1 for lettuce, how much are you going to buy at that single specific price? Whereas demand might say, well, how much are you going to buy at $1? How much are you going to buy at $1.25? How much are you going to buy at $1.50? So demand looks at a series of prices. Quantity demanded is at a single price, single specific price. So we deal with a single point, a single number. This is a single spot, where this is a relationship. It shows a whole lot of different price and quantity combinations. So we have a one-dimensional and a two-dimensional concept here. Do not get these confused. These are highly different aspects, different concepts. Oftentimes we see in economics, people begin to get demand and quantity demanded confused. They begin to think that they're the same thing, and they're actually highly different. One shows a single point, the other one shows a relationship. So, after we have this demand and then quantity demanded identified, defined, then we can go ahead and develop a demand schedule. A demand schedule is a schedule that identifies price-quantity combinations that exist in a demand relationship. So we've already said that this demand is a relationship, and it's showing all these price and quantity combinations. So what we've done is we take and build a schedule. We build something like this. This is a demand schedule, and it shows all of these series of alternate prices and the price-quantity combinations between each one. So it shows, this schedule shows that relationship between the two. Something to note here is that we have changes in quantity demanded. As we move up and down the scale, we have changes in quantity demanded. And you can actually look up here, whenever you're building one of these demand schedules, you have price in one column and quantity demanded in the other. So quantity demanded, if you remember, is that amount that is being demanded at that single specific price. So at a price of $1, we have 15 units being demanded. There is a single, at that single specific price, we have this much being demanded. So that is the quantity that is being demanded. At $2, we have 9 units being demanded. That is a quantity demanded. But the whole thing shows this demand relationship. It shows that series of alternate prices, and it shows these prices and the quantity relationship. So this whole schedule shows the demand, but this column shows the quantity demanded, and that's the amount being demanded at a single specific price. So if we look at it and then we move up and down this column, we show changes in quantity demanded. So quantity demanded fluctuates from 15 units all the way down to 1.9 units. But we don't see a change in demand. This relationship, the price and quantity relationship, does not change. It actually stays the same. So this graph does not show a change, or this chart does not show a change in demand, but it shows a change in quantity demanded. Something else to note, that a change in price does not change demand. So we can change prices all we want, and that affects quantity demanded, but it does not affect the actual demand relationship itself. So after we've developed this demand schedule, then we go in there and we develop this demand curve. So what is a demand curve? A demand curve is a two-dimensional graph that is built from the schedule. So what we've done, and this is the demand graph down here, the demand curve down here. We've taken this schedule up here and actually just put it into a graph. So a couple things to notice about the graph. The first thing we notice is a vertical and then the horizontal axis. The vertical axis has price on it. Price will always be on the vertical axis whenever we're dealing with a supply or a demand schedule. So here we have price on this vertical axis. We have quantity down here. So that is going to be a very important aspect whenever you have to draw graphs in economics, to make sure that you have the price and the quantity on the correct axis. So we have this price and quantity aspect, and we're now showing a graphical representation of this demand schedule. We show prices to quantity. Now if you notice something about it, that this visual representation is a two-dimensional representation, and it's downward sloping. What do I mean by that? I mean this graph is going down, meaning that as prices increase, you buy less quantity. But as prices decrease, you buy more of it. Well, we can see that up here as well. At $1, you buy 15 units. At $2.75, you buy 1.9 units. So you buy less as prices increase. And we can see that right here. That as prices begin to increase from bottom to top, we see that less quantity is actually being bought. So as prices increase, less is being bought. Well, does that make sense? Well, yeah, it kind of does. So you think about it, and you are going into, or you're a consumer. Everyone's a consumer. If you're watching this, that means you're human and that you consume things. So if you're a consumer and prices are real high, are you more inclined to buy more or less of that good? Chances are you're more inclined to buy less. But if prices for that good drop, you're more inclined to buy more. So let's say you go into the retail store and the package of Oreos costs $5. Well, given your particular budget, you may only want one package of Oreos in. You might want to say, well, I don't want to buy two packages of Oreos and spend $10. But what happens if prices fall from $2 or from $5 to about $2.50? Well, you might say, hey, I might just buy two packages of Oreos now because I have the money for it. Where before I could only buy one package, now I can buy two. So it kind of makes sense. As prices begin to fall, you buy more stuff. You buy more goods. You buy more of that particular good. So that's what that is showing right here. That as prices rise, you buy less. But as prices fall, you wind up buying more. So that pretty much concludes the demand. And what we've essentially done is we've shown that this demand schedule, and you take this demand schedule and you put it in this demand graph, or this demand curve, and this demand curve is a two-dimensional aspect. And before I let you go, just remember that this demand it shows a relationship that is a two-dimensional aspect. And do not get this confused with quantity demanded, that is a one-dimensional aspect showing a single point or a single number, and it shows how much are you willing to buy at a single specific price.